You've heard never to allow the knee to travel past the toe in many of your yoga postures. And while you can see right now that my body naturally kneeling down is doing just that. Why? Because it can. So then why is it a problem? Well, let me first explain to you that the knee joint, and you can think of it like an upper and a lower coming together, is in its most stable position when it's straight. So now there's not a lot of movement. The leg is effectively locked. The problem becomes when it's not completely straight and it's not completely flexed. So full flexion might look like this. Now I don't have a lot of movement capability. Everything's sort of tight and closed up. But when you're in between, in a lunge like a warrior one, warrior two kind of a lunge, where you're flexing the knee, but not fully flexing the knee, you have this movement that happens in the lower and the upper leg. This isn't as dramatic as it is in real life, but it allows you, the knee allows you to turn and pivot. And if you're playing sports, it can be a real problem if you get force above or below and your leg is in a different position. In yoga, not so much, but in yoga, we call it knee shearing when the knee is perhaps slightly traveling here. The real problem is the position of the knee isn't transferring my weight appropriately from my upper body into my lower body, sort of stopping at my knee and asking my knee to carry this heavy load of upper body to lower body versus being a conduit, a passageway, a joint, a relationship between the upper, the lower, and then the foot ultimately. So full knee flexion looks like full hip flexion, looks like full ankle flexion. So the whole chain has to work together. But you can see my butt, the majority of my weight now is lower to the earth and it's not really traveling through my knee. My knee is in pretty much full flexion for my body. Of course, your heels could be up here, but this gives you the idea that the majority of your weight isn't here. It's not coming right into the knee itself, although it's deep. So a lunge pose that might have the knee past the toes would be Anjaneyasana or low lunge. If I don't have the ability to flex my knee fully and to have my hips lower than my knee, I just don't have this range of motion through the ankle, knee, and even into the hip, and I'm up here somewhere, then it becomes important to keep the knee in line with the hip, in line with the ankle, and not traveling forward. That's a little too much force in the knee. Say I can't do it. I keep my hands on the floor and I might just start to walk my knee back. So I start to have a sense of hip lower than the knee. But if I really can, if I have that range of motion, particularly because the heel could be lifted still here, some of us don't have the range in the ankle as we do in the hip or the knee, then here I am. The weight is below the knee, and I could start to reach my arms up or even full form of the pose at a back bend. But the knee is now just in full flexion, not so likely to be damaged. Of course, if there's other things going on your knee and full flexion just doesn't feel good, that's a whole other can of soup. And then you would always err on the side of not having knees over toes. But if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to ask me. I just want to show you, depending on what your body can do, something that we hear all the time may or may not apply to you. Namaste.